tongues. That's what God commands. And you will be held accountable for what you do as God commands. And I know that as people you understand that, so you understand that this is a command and a serious subject. What happens to Christians when they ignore God's commands? I'm sure that you all have seen in the past what happens to those people. But the one who prophesies speaks to people for their strengthening, encouragement, and comfort. So we know that prophets are accepted and understood. Your prophecy can be understood and should be, but your speaking in tongues is not. And I have more than one witness in the Bible to agree with me on that. It says in Acts 10:46, "For they heard them speaking in tongues and praising God." Why is speaking in tongues and praising God in the same sentence, as though they were the same thing? It's because tongues is not used normally to evangelize. It says so in the Bible. You don't use tongues to evangelize. You use them often to praise God. It's a language between you and God, and they knew that back then, and they ought to know it now. Many of you are hedge Christians, and you don't want to go fully into God, and that's fine. You know, you have to do it at your level of comfort. I'm not saying you have to speak in tongues to be saved. That's not it. That's not what the Bible teaches. You know, I'm not Christian, but I can tell clearly from looking in the Bible that they are not always teaching the gifts of the Spirit properly in the churches. And so look with me and agree with me there. I can actually further, in 1 Corinthians 14, there is further proof that our tongue speaking is actually the same type as theirs. Anyone who speaks in a tongue edifies themselves, not others. Themselves. In the Bible, they do not edify others because others don't understand them. Tongues can actually be spoken without being understood. As I said, anyone who speaks in a tongue edifies themselves, but the one who prophesies edifies the church. Speaking in tongues is not meant to edify the church. It is a sign, it's a miracle, it's prophecy, but it is not always understood. Yet again here. I would rather like every one of you to speak in tongues. Paul actually likes it so much he wishes everyone did. But I would rather have you prophesy. The one who prophesies is greater than the one who speaks in tongues. Why? Because it's understood if you speak in prophecy. Understood versus not understood. The one who prophesies is greater than the one who speaks in tongues unless someone interprets. Now, we have this practice in the church now where there will be speaking in tongues and then a following interpretation. But the interpretation is necessary to come from God. It's a gift to interpret tongues because the tongue is not understood even by the person who interprets it. And that is proven and in the Bible as I just read. Now again, he states further that speaking in tongues is not understood by anyone, not even the interpreter. Now, brothers and sisters, if I come to you and speak in tongues, what good will I be to you? He's saying it's no good to anyone. Why? Because it's not understood. Unless I bring some revelation or knowledge or prophecy or word of instruction. Because he's saying that the prophecy, as he is saying you have to look in context, he's talking about prophecy. Prophecy is worth it. Speaking in tongues is not so good because it's not as edifying to the church since no one understands it. The whole point, no one understands tongues. Even in the case of lifeless things that make sounds, such as the pipe or harp, how will anyone know what tune is being played unless there is a distinction in the notes? Again, if the trumpet does not sound a clear call, who will get ready for battle? So it is with you. Unless you are speaking intelligible words with your